Hello and welcome to Biscon Television News Roundup. I'm Stella Opara. We'll begin with some of the stories that made headlines during the week. On the national scene, Rivers State APC welcomes pro-weekend lawmakers, expects more defectors. ASU condemns low education budget, threatens strike. In business news, ignore reports about banks' failed stress test, CBN tells Nigerians. On the foreign scene, suicide bomber attacks Pakistani police station, killing at least 23 officers and wounding 32 others. And in the weather sport, the Sea meant to earn 8.7 billion naira yearly in Napoli's new 3-year deal. Now, the news in full. On Monday, the All Progressives Congress in Rivers State said it was open to receive more defectors from the People's Democratic Party in the state, describing the defection of the 27 members of the State House of Assembly as a welcome to development. Spokesperson for the State APC Caretaker Committee, Chiboike Ikenga, stated this while speaking with newsmen in Port Harcourt. He said with the number of lawmakers now in the APC and with more to follow, the state will be effectively governed. The defected lawmakers cited division within the PDP as a primary reason for their defection to the APC. The affected lawmakers are said to be the ones loyal to the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike. It was gathered that the lawmakers held plenary around 8 a.m. on Monday, where the decision was taken. Now, it was in the news on Tuesday that universities across the country may witness strikes in 2024 due to the small budget allotted to the education sector and poor remuneration, the Academic Staff Union of Universities revealed. Speaking in an interview with newsmen, Professor Emmanuel Ashodake explained that during the 2023 general election campaign, President Bola Tinubu promised to increase the education budget to at least 15% or over. Ashodake, however, said that ASU was dejected when the 2024 education budget was announced to be 2.18 trillion naira or 7.9% of the budget. He reiterated that it was the same figure during the Buhari government, adding that no much progress will be made in the sector if the budget was not increased. Ashodake advised the government to meet with the cabinet members and increase the budget to 15% or more. Now, it was reported on Wednesday that the Minister of Solid Minerals, Mr. Dele Alake, alleged that some powerful Nigerians involved in illegal mining are sponsoring banditry and terrorism in the country. He stated this when he appeared before the House of Representatives Committee on Solid Minerals for the Ministry's 2024 Budget Defense in Abuja, the nation's capital. Alake also alleged that foreigners also engage in illegal mining in the country. He called on the federal government to pay close attention to the mining sector, which would generate trillions of naira for the country annually. He said the most disturbing aspect was that most of the foreigners engaged in illegal mining in the country has no proper immigration. He said for mining to generate the requisite revenue, there was a need to have a formal structure that multinational companies could deal with, just like the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited. The minister, however, said the approach of the ministry under his leadership would be different from NNPCL, adding that the structure being proposed for Nigerian Mining Cooperation will be primarily private sector driven. In another story on Thursday, the federal government dismissed all directors of civil aviation agencies in the country following the sacking of the chief executive officers of the same organizations. In a statement by the Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Festus Keyamo, the federal government ordered all the affected directors to hand over to the most senior officers in the various directorates with immediate effect. The affected agencies include the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria, FAN, Nigeria Meteorological Agency, NIMET, Nigeria Airspace Management Agency, NAMA, Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority, NCAA, and the Nigeria Safety and Investigation Bureau, NSIB. The government said the move was aimed at repositioning the aviation industry and ensuring a safe and efficient air travel experience for Nigerians, in line with the agenda of President Bola Tinubu. In the news on Friday, the Supreme Court upheld the federal government's appeal challenging the verdict of the appeal court, which dismissed the charges against Nnamdi Kanu. In upholding the government's appeal, the Supreme Court held that Kanu must face trial at the Federal High Court. The Supreme Court, in the judgment delivered by Justice Emmanuel Ajin, but prepared by Justice Garba Lawal, held that the Court of Appeal was wrong to rule that Kanu could not be tried again based on the illegality perpetrated against him by the federal government, following the invasion of his home. Also, the court held that although the Nigerian government was reckless and unlawfully rendered Kanu from Kenya, such unlawful act has not divested any court from proceeding with trial. Justice Lawal said no Nigerian law was cited in the suit seeking Kanu's release on the grounds of unlawful abduction from Kenya. According to the court, the remedy for such an action is for Kanu to file a civil matter against the act. instead of removing the powers of the courts to continue with his trial for alleged criminal charges. You're watching Biscon Television News Roundup. Up next is business news. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Now to business news. We told you on Monday that the Central Bank of Nigeria has said the Nigerian banking industry remains resilient and that key financial soundness indicators were within the regulatory thresholds as CAC 2023 urged to Nigerians to disregard media reports listing some banks as failing the capital adequacy ratio stress test for international authorization. The Apex Bank made this known in a statement signed by its spokesperson Ali Sidi Ali and posted on its website on Monday, December 11, 2023. The CBN assured Nigerians that it is engaging with various critical stakeholders to sustain the level of confidence in the Nigerian financial sector. This assurance came in response to reports in some media outlets suggesting that some licensed commercial banks in the country had failed the CBN's capital adequacy ratio for international authorization. The CBN appealed to Nigerians to disregard the media reports listing banks as failing the capital adequacy ratio stress test for international authorization, as the report did not emanate from the Central Bank of Nigeria. Now, according to a report on Tuesday, no fewer than 6,000 jobs were expected to be lost as 5 notable companies shut their production factories in Nigeria. Newsmen reported that American multinational consumer goods company Procter & Gamble announced plans to terminate its on-ground operations in Nigeria, transforming the country into an import-focused market. Other multinational firms that have also left Nigeria in 2023 include Unilever Nigeria, Home Care and Skin Cleansing Division, GlaxoSmithKline, Sanofi, and Bolt Foods. The companies in separate statements alluded to the painful decision to leave Nigeria to their plan to pursue an import-based model that would ensure business sustainability. Speaking with newsmen, the president of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, Francis Meshoye, blamed the harsh business environment as the reason why foreign companies are exiting Nigeria in recent months. He warned that if the government failed to step up its engagement with manufacturers, the trend would likely continue as investors were wary about plunging money into business climates that did not guarantee a return on investments. Now, on Friday, the Africa Development Bank lamented the spate of illicit flow of funds in Africa's financial system and called for increased measures to combat the menace. This was as the bank's chief economist and vice president, economic governance and knowledge, Kevin Urama, raised concerns that African countries are losing $90 billion each year due to illicit financial flows. He said this during the graduation of the first cohort of the Public Finance Management Academy for Africa in Abuja. Urama, while delivering his opening address, noted that the highlighted strategic importance of public finance management lies in enhancing economic governance and knowledge management to promote wealth creation and prudent management of public finances. He stressed the urgency of tackling issues within the public finance management ecosystems, emphasizing that Africa, despite its natural resource richness, often faces financial challenges due to mismanagement. He stated that Africans must have monetary frameworks to efficiently manage the resources required to enhance productivity and create wealth in Africa for Africans. We'll take another short break to come back with foreign news. Stay tuned. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, you're watching Biscon Television News Roundup. Now to foreign news. A suicide bomber detonated his explosive-laden vehicle at the main gate of a Pakistani police station early on Tuesday, killing at least 23 officers and wounding 32 others. The explosion caused a part of the building to collapse in the deadly attack in northwestern Pakistan, according to local officials via the Associated Press. The attack happened in Dera Ismail Khan, a city in the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province bordering Afghanistan. Some militants also opened fire towards the structure, leading to a shootout with security forces that lasted hours before 3 attackers were gunned down, police officer Kamal Khan said. The death toll from the attack is expected to rise as some of the wounded officers were listed in critical condition, authorities said. Now on Thursday, a plan for Italy to send tens of thousands of asylum seekers to Albania for processing was temporarily blocked by the Albanian Supreme Court. The top court ordered a hearing next month to decide whether the deal violates Albania's constitution. Under the agreement, the Italian government will build 2 centers in northern Albania to process 36,000 people, hoping to reach Italy a year. But the opposition in both countries and rights groups have criticized it. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni and her Albanian counterpart Edi Rama signed the agreement last month. Under the deal, some 3,000 people a month who had attempted to reach Italy by sea would be detained in 2 processing centers near the northeastern port of Schengen while their asylum claims were examined. The centers would be paid for by the Italian government and will be under Italian law. Italian staff would be responsible for operations and would have immunity from Albanian law in certain cases. Once migrants' asylum claims had been assessed, Italy would be responsible for either resettling them from the centers to Italy or deporting them. The top court ruled on Thursday that the appeals should be considered in further hearings, which automatically suspended ratification of the law. In another story on Friday, the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS regional bloc, has suspended Niger's membership after the ruling military junta refused to reinstate deposed President Mohamed Bazoum. Mr. Bazoum was overthrown in a military coup in July. ECOWAS, in a statement, said that a recent summit of its leaders in Nigeria recognized that Mr. Bazoum's government was effectively overthrown in a military coup. It suspended Niger from ECOWAS decision-making bodies until constitutional order is restored in the country. The situation in Niger was initially perceived by ECOWAS as an attempted coup, leading to the delay in suspending the country. ECOWAS imposed sanctions and even threatened military intervention after the coup. Also on Friday, Hungary blocked 50 billion euros in EU aid for Ukraine, just hours after an agreement was reached on starting membership talks. EU leaders said the aid negotiations would resume early next year. Ukraine is critically dependent on EU and US funding as it continues to fight occupying Russian forces. The aid blocking was announced by Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban shortly after the EU leaders decided to open membership talks with Ukraine and Moldova and to grant candidate status to Georgia. Hungary, which maintains close ties with Russia, has long opposed membership for Ukraine, but did not veto that move. Mr. Orban left the negotiating room momentarily in what officials described as a pre-agreed and constructive manner, while the other 26 leaders went ahead with the vote. He told Hungarian state radio on Friday that he had fought for 8 hours to stop his EU partners going ahead, but could not convince them. Ukraine's path to EU membership would be a long process anyway, he added, stating that Parliament in Budapest could still stop it happening if it wanted to. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky hailed the EU decision on membership talks as a victory. You're watching Biscon Television News Roundup. Coming up next is sports news. Stay tuned. Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle. Welcome back. Now to the other sport. It was reported on Monday that Nigerian international Victor Osimhen was criticized by La Gazzetta dello Sport following his gesture towards Juventus fans at the Allianz Stadium. Napoli suffered a 1-0 loss against Juventus in Turin last Friday, and an Osimhen moment after the game went viral. The Nigerian in the video was seen raising his hands to make a 5-1 gesture towards Juventus fans at the Allianz Stadium. That, according to Gazzetta, it's something the 24-year-old should have avoided. The Napoli star in his gesture reminded the Old Lady supporters of their 5-1 loss against the Partenope from last season. Journalist Marco Ciriello wrote that Osimhen's gesture was proof of the tendency to live in the past and create a rubble which isolates from the present. It was also reported on Tuesday that the Turkish Football Federation suspended all leagues indefinitely after referee Halil Umutmela was punched by Ankara-Gucu president Faruk Koca after Monday's 1-1 draw with Jayko Rizpoch. There is absolutely no place for violence in football, on or off the field, Infantino said in a statement on social media. Without match officials, there is no football, Infantino continued. He further noted that referees, players, fans and staff have to be safe and secure to enjoy the game, and called on the relevant authorities to ensure that this is strictly implemented and respected at all levels. Images of Monday night's incident showed Koca rushing onto the pitch with a group of men and throwing a punch at Mela after he had blown the final whistle. A court had placed Koca and 2 others in pre-trial detention for injuring and threatening a public official. Now, news had it on Friday that Super Eagles striker Victor Osimhen has agreed a new 3-year deal with Napoli, which will see the African Footballer of the Year earning 8.7 billion naira yearly. According to newsmen, Napoli hastened to conclude negotiations on the new deal to ward off likely suitors. His current contract with Napoli is expected to end in 2025, meaning that the new agreement extends that deal by 1 year. The clause inserted by Napoli ensures that the Italian champions will earn a huge fee from any club ready to take the former Under-17 World Cup winner away from the club, and also means that Osimhen will not be held prisoner to any attractive offers that lands his way. Meanwhile, Juventus are reportedly lining up Bayern Leverkusen striker Victor Boniface as a replacement for Dusan Vlahovic, who is expected to leave the club in the summer. Juventus have one of the strongest squads in the league, but they have to offload some players to raise funds and replace them with newer